Hello and welcome to this training video on obsessive compulsive disorder. I'm Mark Brennan, Project Director for Community Support Training at the Missouri Institute of Mental Health Continuing Education Division in St. Louis, Missouri. With me today is Mr. Bernie Bauer, who is the founder of St. Louis OCD Support Group. Good morning, Mr. Bauer.
Good morning.
How are you today?
Fine. You?
I'm doing well.
Good.
We're very interested in this whole process of your developing a support group for obsessive compulsive disorder. Can you tell us how you became involved in this effort?
Sure. Our son was diagnosed with OCD in 1979, and at that particular time, in the 15 years that followed, there was just limited information about obsessive compulsive disorder, limited treatment providers, or there was no treatment available really, and there was no medications at that time for OCD. So we struggled for many years in not getting anywhere. So we just, by going to many other support groups, we couldn't find anybody we could talk to about OCD. You know, they had different issues in their home life. So I guess based on that, we decided that we would start a support group in the St. Louis area. And that was probably back in 1990, and it's been going on a monthly basis, very strong ever since.
So from 1979 to 1990, that was a period of time where you were dealing with your family members' OCD, but you were also probably educating yourself about the disorder?
Definitely trying to educate ourselves, trying to find any information we could about OCD, but then I'll back up on my other statement. The books and the wonderful stuff we have today was not available at that time, including the problems, the development of therapy to treat OCD, and the medications were not available. So those were difficult years.
It occurs to me, and I didn't mention this up front, but it occurs to me that I bet a lot of people who are watching this video think that there are a whole number of disorders that come under obsessive compulsive disorder, like gambling or other kinds of disorders. Can you talk to us a little bit about how those are different?
Well, so eating disorders, gambling disorders, compulsive stealing, they have some aspects of OCD, but really not. And I guess how you'd really divide them is that in most of those disorders, there's some form of pleasure involved. And OCD, I got to tell you, there's no pleasures. It's negative.
Sure, it's just a lot of obsession and anxiety. Is that right?
Sure.
Well, talk to us a little bit about what activities you involved yourself in during that period of time that helped you prepare for the support group.
Well, again, reading and getting the information that we could, but the National OC Foundation didn't come along until the 80s also, but we started to go into the national meetings and have attended them every year since. And other than that is just attending seminars that became available in St. Louis. We had several key psychiatrists here in St. Louis that brought in some seminars with speakers, and every information we could find, we went to.
So first part of your developing stage was to educate yourself.
Educate yourself.
What was the second stage, if you could talk to us a little bit about what you did next?
Well, the second stage is to try to find and look for treatment for our son. And again, the St. Louis area is extremely fortunate to have one of the top treatment centers in the United States. And that was a great benefit to us, that we could have a treatment program here locally.
Okay.
And that now we're again talking in the mid '80s, I suppose.
And can you talk to us a little bit about what was happening with your son during the time that you first began exhibiting OC behaviors?
Well, I guess the school situation is what brought it out. He was having a very difficult time at school. We didn't know what was wrong. Obviously, you can't blame school personnel either, because they didn't understand the illness. He was accused of being a daydreamer and not wanting to do his work. But obviously, he had very severe obsessions, and that was occupying his mind, during the school program. So you can see why it'd be extremely difficult for a person to learn under those conditions.
Certainly. And during that period of time, there was limited information with regard to the disorder, and that probably caused the teacher some concern also, because they didn't know why he was doing what he was doing.
No, the teachers didn't know, and many of them don't know yet today. But at this particular time, I'd like to bring up a new program we've been working on for many years, starting probably before, well, it's going to be available this fall. We have a program that if you had a son or a person in a school setting, and you wanted to go to that school and give a talk on OCD, we've got just a video and all the typical questions everybody's going to ask about OCD. You can go to a school or anywhere and give this program, and you got all the guidelines to go by. This is something we worked on for many years, and we're going to see it be available this fall.
Okay, so second stage is also extending now, which is educating the public with regard to OCD.
Yeah, educating the public. It is very important.
So what areas of concern did you as a parent have for your child who had OCD?
Well, we had a deep concern that he wasn't progressing in school, and again didn't know what to do about it. So we did get him in smaller classes and so forth. But unfortunately, our son has also a learning disability problem, so that doubles the problem in learning in the school setting.
Certainly. And I want to make mention of the fact that your support group is for adults who have OCD.
Yes.
Is that correct?
Yes, it is.
Okay, and by way of just trying to educate the public, we're talking about the development of your own process of working with your son through his early experiences, but he is an adult now as well.
Yes, he is, and still has difficulties, still takes a lot of medication, and has been through several therapy programs, and he is now working on a part-time basis, but is unable to work on it full-time.
Sounds like he's come a long way, though, in terms of his own experience.
Considering from 1979 to 1990, it's a great step, but I guess as a parent you're never satisfied, you're wanting more.
Certainly.
Yeah.
Certainly. So we've been talking a little bit about the first stage was your self-educating. Second stage was educating the public. And what was the third level, do you think, that you got to in terms of the process of helping other people with understanding OCD?
Well, I guess that's really the mission of our support group, is to guide a person. As I mentioned, had a call yesterday from a parent who didn't understand OCD, didn't know what was going on, why she was having the rituals and so forth. And our mission now and has been is to guide these persons that call us and who we're in contact with to all the wonderful information we have today that wasn't available a number of years ago. And treatment for a child, to me, can be more successful even an adult, because I think it's understandable they're just had a few years in these OCD habits, and if me at my age, if I just went to seek treatment, I've been doing this all my life, you can see why it'd be more difficult for me to tackle than a child.
So talk to us a little bit about what a support group meeting might look like. What do people do when they go there?
Well, our support group is based on, and it's been the same since we began. It's been successful as we operate our support group. We have an hour of a professional speaker, and this professional speaker is usually always on obsessive compulsive disorder. After the speaker is over, we offer refreshments and a little social guide in 15 or 20 minutes, and then we divide into two support groups. And one of the support groups are for the caregivers, family members, and so forth. And the other support group is for adults with OCD. And however, I will mention that we have a lot of youngsters come in there, 15, 18 years old, that can join in the support group and do a wonderful job.
Okay.
And really want to open up and talk.
And what would be the topic areas that in your separate groups you would discuss? Or
well, that's really a broad area to talk about. I mean, in the family side, we often talk about the enabling issue, the manipulation issue with a person with OCD, and talk about various treatment areas that we've been to and they've been to, and which one's successful. And just try to offer hints and help based on, again, some of the wonderful books that we have to help them in the family perspective. And we also strongly encourage the members on the family side to educate themselves about the OCD problems.
You had mentioned enabling. Can you talk a little bit about what that is?
Well, I usually give the definition of enabling. If I'm doing something for another person that he can do himself, I'm enabling that person. And again, that's a very strong statement because we're still guilty of enabling.
I would imagine as a parent it's hard not to try to do for someone what you think they could do for themselves, but it might be a little difficult.
Very difficult. I think it's natural for a parent to possibly cater to a person in the family that's having some mental issues or whatever problems. So it's easy to get into that trap of enabling.
So if I were a parent of an individual who had OCD and you noticed that I was enabling, what would you say to me that would help me to understand I shouldn't be doing that, or I could do something different?
Mm-hmm. I would offer you a couple of books to read that address this issue.
Mm-hmm. And why would I be interested in doing that?
It's going to make your life much more pleasant, and it's going to benefit the person with OCD rather than causing him more problems. The more you enable him, the more he's going to want.
Have you ever had a parent become somewhat defensive about the enabling issue when you've talked with them about it?
Of course, yeah. Many times. If you're going to go to you got an appointment this afternoon at 3 o'clock, and this particular person has to go with you, and he can't be ready, and you might help him a little bit.
Okay, sure. I understand. It's a little bit easier, I think, to do that than to work through the issues.
Yes, yeah.
Well, talk to us a little bit about how did you locate a caregiver for your son?
Mm-hmm. Well, it was easy in the St. Louis area because, again, I stress the idea we have some treatment centers. So if you're talking about the treatment center was here in St. Louis, and that's where he went for his therapy program. Mm-hmm. And usually, the psychiatrist and the psychologist usually, work together from the medication and the therapy standpoint.
Did you get a lot of support from the psychiatrist, from the psychologist?
Well,
in terms of,
I guess yes and no. Today, many of your major treatment centers offer a program for the caregivers as much as they do, and they see that need. Mm-hmm. And I don't think that was as much of an issue back, in our earlier years of working with the other family members. But again, there are programs now for family members, which I think is very important.
And while we're talking about treatment programs, I kind of want to stress that they're probably both outpatient and inpatient programs.
Sure.
And can you talk to us a little bit about the difference between those?
I think the amount of appointments that a person would have would probably go back to relate to how severe the mental professional considers his OCD. Mm-hmm. It could be a one appointment a week, it could be 3, or it could be, as we have a number of treatment centers in the United States where it's in-house 24 hours a day. Mm-hmm. And these, you can't really say how long that the treatment's going to last, but I would say typically one of these in-house treatments 24 hours a day probably go from maybe 4 to 8 weeks.
Mm-hmm. And what do you consider to be the most important aspect of those treatment programs?
Well, the most important aspect would be to teach them techniques to, lessen their rituals and their anxiety, and for them to, if I'm asking your question, Greg, go on and lead a more productive life. I mean, that would be what it'd be for.
And for the support group that you've developed, what is the outcome that you would hope for individuals who come to the support groups?
Primarily, our support group, what we have always called is an information center, mm-hmm. that they would come there and find the proper literature, a listing of the treatment providers, and maybe some support from some of the members in the group to, help them.
And so it sounds like this three-pronged approach, which is self-education, educating the public, and then developing and enacting support groups, is the way that's been most effective for the people that you work with.
I think that over the year we've seen this develop from nothing to what it is today, and yes, attend all the seminars you can go to, attend support groups, join the National OC Foundation, which puts out 6 very informative newsletters a year, plus other benefits. So put all those together and you'll have a more happy life with an OCD person.
Okay, do you have any other final thoughts for us today with regard to your experiences or the support groups?
Other than due to the fact now that we have treatment and we do have approved medications for OCD, and I might stress that they may not work for you and they may work better for me and vice versa, but seeking a professional, and my biggest emphasis would be to find a professional who has a training in OCD therapy. Mm-hmm.
And it also sounds like you need to have a great amount of energy that you have talked about in your personal experience in terms of what you've gone through, educating yourself, educating the public, and developing a support group. I would imagine takes a lot of internal strength and energy. Would you agree?
Yeah. But when you go to a support group and you see a family really suffering, and you see that you've offered them some help, and I guess one of the key comments made at our support group over the years was that many of the people that came there, and now I'm talking about on the OCD side, I thought I was the only person in the world doing these silly rituals and stuff, and it's been a great benefit to talk to someone else that does the same, and they're somewhat relieved.
So they connect with other individuals.
Yes, right. Yeah. Yes.
Well, thank you so much, Mr. Bauer, for coming in and sharing your expertise with us. I'd like to remind the audience that Mr. Bauer has mentioned several articles and books. We're going to have a link to those on our website. We also have, obviously, you have an email address?
Yes. www.stlocd.org.
We'll also have that linked also. I appreciate your time, and please understand that obsessive compulsive disorder is a difficult disorder. We should all be doing our part to educate the public and ourselves with regard to the disorder and the various treatments for it. Thank you.